If you're like me, you might be looking at several more weeks of winter ahead of you, and you're wondering how you're going to keep your sanity. The lack of sunlight, the being cooped up inside, and the extreme weather, well, it definitely takes its toll on your mental health. But in this video, I'm going to share with you 4 easy ways to feel better now in the middle of winter by using nature. I know many of us have heard the advice that's given to eat healthy, exercise, take your vitamin D so we can avoid that seasonal depression in the middle of winter. But I feel like modern medicine is missing a key ingredient. That is that they fail to address the lack of greenery that's in our lives for several months in a row. I live at high altitude in the Rocky Mountains, and once that color of the fall is over with, we don't see color again until May. And even then, a lot of times it's buried under the snow. So believe me, I know what a long winter is like, and I know what it does to your psyche. So I'm going to lay out 4 ideas that I've come up with over the last several years to help beat the winter blues. So starting with the easiest, anyone at any skill level can implement this first idea, and that is to take a spin down to your local supermarket and browse around the produce and floral department. They're available year-round, and you can pick out any flowers that you'd like. Just spending time leisurely walking through this department can boost your mood in an afternoon. Giving yourself the permission to pick out your most favorite flowers can be a cheap thrill. And believe me, I used to think that spending money on cut flowers was a waste of money because they never lasted very long. Now I appreciate how precious they are to have that pop of life and that pop of color and beauty in the middle of winter when things are so bleak outside. It's fun when you get them home to pick out a nice vase, arrange the flowers and put them in a prominent location and have them remind you of that promise of spring that's bound to return. So option 2 is the next step up because it involves a little bit more work. And that is to curate an area of your home dedicated to houseplants. You probably already have a few houseplants, or maybe several, but there's something about creating a green space, a dedicated area that you can visit and tend to, nurture over the winter weeks and months to help you feel more connected to nature. This option requires a little bit more of a green thumb because some plants require a little bit more attention than others, but I've had pretty good luck with succulents because they only need watering about once per week, so I can go a few days and not really worry about them, and they get plenty of light on the windowsill. And my curated area isn't very big. It's one windowsill with a few plants on the floor, and I have a little overflow area on another windowsill. But for me, it's completely manageable. It's not overwhelming and I don't feel like I overcommitted. I also did this on a budget by finding plants that were available at the supermarket on discount, through Facebook Marketplace, through my local library's plant and bake sale. I was able to build a nice collection over time and not invest a ton of money into it, worrying about if my plant was going to survive or not. Okay, so option number 3. Well, this one requires a little bit of pre-planning. And don't worry if you can't do it this year, but keep it in mind for something that you can do next year. So one of the ways that I stay connected to nature in the wintertime is that I save flowers and dried plants from the summertime and preserve them, like by drying them, so I can enjoy them through the winter. One way that I do this is that I collect brightly colored twigs or seed pods, grasses, and I arrange them in mason jars, and I kind of put them out as decoration. And another way I do this is I take flowers and I dry them to preserve their color, and then I arrange them in some artwork. Well, it turns out I ended up making a pretty successful art business making my dried flower artwork, because who doesn't love flowers and who doesn't love pops of color and having flowers on your wall year round? But you definitely don't have to be an artist to do this step. You can dry your flowers upside down. Like I said, you could arrange them in a vase, put them out throughout the winter. And if you are curious more about my artwork that I do with dried flowers, I'll put a video link at the end of the video so you can see more detail on how that works. All right, and so option 4 is a little bit more advanced. This might be for the gardener or the plant savvy person. Honestly, I did this as a complete beginner and I had amazing results. For someone who's just eager to get back into the garden, get back into digging in the dirt, but it's currently frozen, there's a way that you can bring gardening inside, and that is through hydroponics. I know it sounds like it's going to be really complex with tons of unfamiliar equipment or complicated chemicals, but it couldn't be easier, especially the way that I've done hydroponics. The tools are very simple. The most expensive thing you would need would be a grow light. And I know a lot of people that are gardeners and they already have this on hand, but they might not have thought about this option as something that you could do during the winter and have your harvest ready inside. You can grow a variety of plants this way. Things that work especially well are greens and herbs, things that grow from the top. You're not going to be able to grow root vegetables because that's where your mason jar and your water is. For myself, I ended up growing kale, I did lettuces, I did collard greens, and I did basil, which ended up turning into a basil forest. It was really rewarding. And I did all of this in my basement, so I didn't need a ton of room. I just did it on top of a bookshelf. I'm thinking I might actually try this again this winter because I have several more weeks of winter ahead of me. I think it would help me pass the time. I'll add a video link at the end if you want to see what my project looked like a few years ago when I first tried hydroponics. But I'm not going to quit at just 4 ideas. I actually have the ultimate idea to beat the winter blues for good, cure it in fact. And it's an option that's the most advanced, and that is to build a year-round greenhouse. So the construction's already been started. We got the majority of it done last summer, but we should start planning this spring. So definitely stay tuned and subscribe if you want to see more about how the evolution of a year-round greenhouse works and all the things I want to be growing in it, from plants to vegetables to hydroponics to fish and maybe mushrooms. But before you go, I'd love to hear from you. Which option stood out as the most appealing, and how are you going to beat the winter blues this year?